Welcome, and we are going to talk about return on investment, which everyone is probably super jazzed about. With me, Marcus, as resident corporate therapist, so he will be talking about his piece here. Myself, I'm Tom Koep, the Amperity VP over Customer Strategy. We are going to have Lisa and Victoria come up and actually give us a customer experience. And with that, we'll get started. The intros. We'll cover 3 different sections. First, an overview of ROCD, which Tony called out as part of the keynote. Also, what are our learnings? What are our insights? And finally, go through a bit of a panel discussion so you actually hear from a customer on what we did, what their key learnings were, and actually what they brought back to their business. With that, I want to set a stage. The idea is you're in your office. And next part of scene, your boss walks in. For those who are remote, this is probably terrifying because you're first asking why you're in my house. But needless to say, we'll unpack that later. They're in your house. They're asking you one simple question. Is it done? And you prop yourself up, trying to figure out back to the question why you're here. But then you ask, is what done? And they go on. They go on and say, so we've done implementation. We've unified our data. We're doing activations. We're doing campaigns. We're measuring. And you're sitting there, you're nodding, you're saying, yeah, I mean, we've done all the things. Like, yeah, I think it's done. I don't really know where this conversation's going, but yes. Then they ask a question that terrifies you. So what's our ROI? And you panic. You don't panic because you haven't been thinking about this for the better part of the last few months during this whole process. You panic because it's a miserable experience. You're sitting there going quickly through your mind, trying to understand, oh man, like where's that customer lifetime value number? Where's my multivariate test? Where's my incrementality number? And you're trying to quickly put all that together, trying to figure out how am I going to go prove worth of the thing that our teams just spent all their time and energy going and doing. The benefit, though, is what if we did that for you? What if we spent our time and effort? What if we automated it? What if we got to the point where we could actually build bespoke use cases tied to revenue, tied to margin impact, and actually did all of that hard work for you as part of what we provide you as a service from our company? And with that, I got to clap. With that, I will introduce you into ROCD. ROCD is not just a value assessment. It's not just a scoring methodology. Every vendor can do a scoring methodology and give you some numerical output. It's actually us partnering to understand how we can implement this product, understand your business, and drive value as soon as possible for you to have a defensible position going back to your leadership to talk about what you just did. And ROCD is interesting because we actually don't do this in like a very generic manner. Every business is different. Your business, my business, I was a customer, having gone through exactly what I just outlined in that scenario. It was a miserable experience. But we do this across a variety of different dimensions because everything is going to be tailored to your business. And the first, as we mentioned here, is business outcomes. What are we driving? What are we going to show you from a value perspective, from measurement and optimization? Technical capabilities. We've got unified customer profiles, intelligence, activation, orchestrations, and then a few must-be-trues. Obviously, AI. I don't think I can stand here and not say the word AI. The other is data trust and security. All of those right to know, right to delete, all those processes, GDPR, CCPA, those take time and energy. So it's a new method in actually quantifying a lot of those things that your teams are spending time on and not just the activation component. So what we do with ROCD is we actually sit and we'll send all of these out to your team. It starts as a 24-question survey. You do it. We'll send it to your IT teams. We'll send it to your marketing teams. Send it to your engineering, InfoSec, all those folks to go through it, but then we do that with you. Our experts, resident expert over there, in the red shirt. Oh, sorry, got it. He will go through that from our lens, from an outside-in perspective, and get you to a score. Score could be a 20, a 30, a 50, a 100. You're best in class, you're transformational, you got a little work to do, Marcus. Like, all of those are scores, and a lot of vendors stop there. They just say, yep, you're a 20. Good job. It's a number. What's interesting, though, about our process is that we take that further. We will then sit with you, do an assessment, and do a discovery workshop. The idea is that we are partnering with your business to understand, what did Sarah say? What did Sally say? What did John talk about? And we go through that and record it, work to understand what are the key points, not just the numbers, but what in each one of those things are people talking about as part of those sessions, and come back to figure out what are bespoke things that we can go do together. And I feel like I'm on QBR. I'm just like, and there's more. The next step is actually, we will go and audit all those surveys, but actually run through your Amperity tenant and look at all the features you're using, all the features that you're not using, and bring that also into the equation to understand what's the best use of your team's time, your money, your understanding of the platform, to be able to then come back and hit each one of those different dimensions. What's interesting, though, is that back to the use case of you sitting in your office trying to figure out how to prove worth, we also bring in things like your customer data, your customer lifetime value, average basket size, return on ad spend, advertising revenue, total number of employees. That all goes into a mathematical model that actually comes back and gives you a monetary number to come back to your teams and say, we think we can go drive X. And not stopping there, but actually bringing in margin impact, margin by line of business. So you have tailored recommendations that then go all the way to a business model that allows you to go back to your internal teams and support what we've provided from a return on customer data. But there's more. The next piece is actually the best part, and we get to the fun part. We have experts internally, and we have use cases that we have built out through so many different industries: retail, travel and hospitality, automotive. We then pull all of those use cases, combined with all of those phone transcripts, all of your survey scores, all of your margin impact, all of your revenue numbers, and sit with you and prioritize hyper-specific areas that you will spend time and effort organized to your business to go prove out each one of those monetary numbers. The idea is we'll come back to you with, I think, current outputs 15, 20, 30, and we'll sit there and say what means the most to you. But it's tied to your business. It's tied to the way that you view it, the words that your team brought up to our team in those conversations, and we then go prioritize, go bring that back to the senior leadership team saying, hey, these top 3 use cases, these top 5 use cases can drive $7 million, $3 million is margin impact, therefore we're showing an incrementality number. But that is now what we provide to you, not just in a very individualized way, but actually an automated way that this never ends. So the idea is that we would do this every 6 months, every 12 months. And you're continuously getting value from our services, from our platform, to everything that Grigori just brought up and new features to come back to your teams and actually show them monetary impact of your customer data. So I'll pause there and have Marcus, as the facilitator, actually go through and explain his portion.
Awesome.
You take that?
I'll do that too. Awesome. Hey, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Marcus Owens, lead solution consultant here at Amperity. I wanted to talk about 2 specific parts of this journey because Tom talked a lot about the quantitative part of ROCD, which we all want an ROI score. We all want that. Fortunately or unfortunately, for those of you who aren't big on interpersonal interaction, there's a qualitative element to this too. And frankly, he said the fun part's the recommendations. I think the fun part's what I'm about to talk to you about, which is the discovery workshop. So a really important part of this process is that workshop where we get people into a room together that maybe don't usually speak, that maybe don't have the opportunity to take 2 hours out of their day and be really strategic about where you're going as a business. And I wanted to share with you today a couple things that have kind of emerged, all surprising things for me as we've been doing those discovery workshops, as well as share with you sort of the general oeuvre of the type of recommendations that you might see out of us. And some of them might kind of surprise you because, spoiler alert, it's not all use this Amperity feature. First, before we get into that, who do you want in the room? I mentioned getting people together that don't usually communicate. You want to have as many people in the room that are close to the product or maybe a few steps away from the product, and you want to bring people together from a lot of different stakeholders. Right? You'll hear from Lisa and Victoria. We had some conversations in the room during their assessment that kind of unveiled new things, changed some priorities, and part of it is just being able to get those people together. And that's really the first sort of aha moment as we started going through this process. Almost to a T, and you'll hear the word group therapy. I think I'm going to add therapist to my discussion. After or even during the discovery workshop, we heard from customers, this is a huge enabler just getting us all together. And we also learned that much like an agile retrospective, right, having somebody like myself that's not working day to day with the account that can maybe ask some sort of dumb questions, right, and provoke conversation has been really powerful, right, to start to reveal those things that change the direction we're going, or just to solidify and align on something that might have been nascent in our interactions previously that is now our North Star that we want to go attack. The second piece is technology doesn't solve every problem, right? We went into this thinking, oh, we're going to give this great list of Amperity things that they can do. But what we found is we started identifying these problems that were more business related, that were outside of Amperity, right? Think about a customer that's only capturing maybe 60% of their purchases because they're not capturing data at the point of sale, or a customer that has a whole segment of their business with interaction and ticket data that's not flowing into the data that they see. So some of our recommendations have actually been more focused on, here's some changes you need to make from a foundational business perspective. They're going to supercharge everything that we do from there. And then the last piece, I said these would be surprising. Maybe this one isn't that surprising. But the word AI has been the most interesting thing to say in these meetings. I don't even have to ask a question. I can usually just say AI, and everybody starts talking about it. There's a CEO that says, oh, yes, we've got a CEO down mandate to start using AI. Well, how's it going? It's like, it's just like when we went to cloud. Use AI. Well, what should we do with AI? I just use it. Use cloud, right? It's the same sort of situation. But it's been really interesting to see how customers are approaching that. Some are approaching it with enthusiasm, with adoption. Some are approaching it with more suspicion, and some are somewhere in the middle trying to find their lane. So after this discovery workshop, group therapy, we come together, like we mentioned, internally at Amperity. We take the qualitative data from this workshop, and yes, for those of you, I saw some heads, we do record these workshops because I can't write notes for 2 hours straight, but it lets us get all of that conversation and distill that in a way that feeds into those more quantitative tools, and then turns into the sort of recommendations that we then share with the team and build that ROI model around. So similar to what I had mentioned earlier, not everything we're recommending is technology driven, right? So we've had some customers where we've really endorsed, like, you really need to make the business case for and adopt that strategy to start capturing that data in more places. We've had more and more, I've learned from customers that building the asset itself isn't enough, right? You need to be proactive and thoughtful about how you're gonna go enable those your internal customers with that data. I said technology doesn't solve everything, but it does solve some things, right? So we've also found a lot of opportunities to optimize either Amperity or other customer technology within the customer data stack. So we, in conversations with customers, may have heard from a stakeholder that uses the data downstream that there's a way that identity resolution is configured or data or profile merging is configured that's not ideal for them. And we need to create a new asset for them that helps them handle that. In a lot of cases, we found that customers would say, oh, I'd love to be able to manage a journey across multiple channels. And it turns out that we just haven't had a chance to have a conversation about a new functionality that we rolled out. So sometimes the answer is in the platform. And then the last piece is really starting to go beyond fix the business, fix the tech, now find the growth opportunities, right? So taking that journey tool and turning that into something that's managing those cross-channel journeys, that's managing more dynamic journeys, starting to use more of the predictive assets that are built into Amperity, right? We have this predictive CLV, churn, et cetera, working those into those individuals' life cycles. And then a through line for a lot of our customers too is, how do I better realize the value in my loyalty program and enhance that? In some cases, that's a customer like Books A Million that has a long-standing paid loyalty program. In other cases, that's a customer like LL Bean that's about to roll out their first non-tender loyalty program. And all of these things, even though we're kind of outside of the world of tech, talking about how they can use that Amperity investment to supercharge that. So I talked really quickly there because I wanted you to get to the real fun part of this session, which is the panel discussion, which is where we're going to go from now. I'll be out in the lobby. If you have more questions about ROC, we have a call to action after this, but if you just want to talk to me a little bit more, I'll be over there at the demo station later on. Thanks, y'all.
So with that, Lisa, Victoria, I'd love if you would come up and actually give your experience with the ROC process. Hold on, I got to get my daughter's pink note cards up. She's probably wondering where they are. So Books A Million went through this about a month ago. I think, Lisa, Victoria, if you want to give kind of an overview of Books A Million and then also your roles, I would love for that to start.
Yeah, you can start.
Sure. Hi, I'm Lisa. Is it working now? Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Lisa Pennell. I am the VP of Digital and E-commerce at Books A Million. And we have been partnering with Amperity for about 2 years now, so we have a lot of potential. And we're super excited to be here today to talk to you about this ROC process. We actually just finished this last week, so it's very fresh in our minds, and we're still actually awaiting the formal output, but excited to kind of share our learnings so far.
And I'm Victoria. I'm our Customer Insights and Analytics Manager. I do everything CRM, customer data related, support loyalty, and strategic marketing from anything from a data perspective. I consider myself a data translator sitting between marketing and our IT team. So this is right up my alley.
Awesome. So thanks for the intro. Thanks for the overview. Start with what got you into ROC. Like, you didn't just wake up like, oh, I love ROI methodologies. Like, let's do it. So yeah, if you want to start.
Yeah, it's actually really funny because I wish we woke up one day and decided to do this. It was presented to us in November, which was, if you work in retail, you know, like a black hole of you're just working and trying to get your sales done because it's holiday. And so we were like, this is really exciting. We need to revisit this. Yeah. So it was always in the back of our minds. And then so once we got through holiday, we were having discussions with our executive team, and we were really getting pushed to show return on investment within our tech stack. So that's when the conversation for ROC really came back around. The running joke at BAM is we will get asked by our CEO, okay, that's great, but how does it help me sell more books? And so when ROC came around, we actually were having an on-site with Amperity. Our executive team was there, and the word therapy session came up. And that's actually what got everyone really excited about it, because we have our IT team. For us, our merchandising team is huge. How many SKUs and books are out there all the time? And so everyone got really excited to have everyone together. And then the output for the roadmap, I think, is what really made us be like, let's get this on the books right now. And I think we had it like scheduled within like 24 hours or something like that. It was huge. But yeah, having the roadmap and knowing that like we're going to be able to own that output is what made us like immediately, once we got everyone together, be like, we need to do this.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. So it really did come from the top down, right? Being asked, what is the ROI of this? After our first year, we started to feel the pressure, okay, we need to kind of educate. So it was very important for us to pull together all of the appropriate stakeholders and sit them down and go through this process, not only to understand where we need to be, but also to get an understanding of where we are and where our limitations are. And what that allowed us to do was really inform all of the stakeholders that we have this huge opportunity. So it brought that buy-in, right, from everyone in that group, and then led to either greater conversations. We're also under a good deal of pressure to show return on all of our digital spending. So with that, the ROC process had those conversations started, and that really helped kick things off.
Awesome. Going a step further, what was something insightful that came out of your ROC session?
Kind of like Lisa was saying, I think the alignment of having everyone in the room together, because our IT team is actually like undergoing an entire data overhaul, for lack of a better word, but I'm not sitting with the IT team every single day, so I only know some of what's happening there. So having IT together, having marketing together, having different parts of marketing together, having the merchandising team together was hugely helpful. And not it just being us, having Marcus kind of come in. You really need to add therapists to that LinkedIn profile. And you held up a mirror, essentially, to say, you need to look at this, what works for you internally, have like an honest and hard conversation, and just have us think about things in a way and challenge the way that we're thinking about certain things, I think was the most insightful because everyone was there. So you have the buy-in from the get-go.
Awesome.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that internal education around Amperity and the capabilities was super helpful. I also think it gave a forum to have those difficult discussions that we kind of talked about. But for me personally, answering to the CEO, it was the output, right? So being able to quantify exactly what we can get out of Amperity with a numerical number that makes everyone smile and feel happy was really transformational for our organization.
Awesome. Sinking the next step. So, the ROC process is brand new. The question would be, did it change how you looked at Amperity? Did it change how you looked at your tech stack? Just like what came out of those discussions in that lens?
So in full transparency, I live in this platform. I lived in this platform for the better part of the last 4 years. So I'm a big Amperity proponent. But so it didn't change the way I thought about it. But what really helped is it changed the way BAM collectively started thinking about it. Because it's kind of hard saying like, here are all of these great things that you can do unless you're sitting down with someone and showing them in and out everything that you're doing. So everyone viewed Amperity as this great platform that's going to give us a customer 360 journey. We're going to know who's getting an email and an SMS and be in our paid media. And that was great. We got there within our year or two of having Amperity, but we needed to get to that next step. And so it helped really get everyone to realize Amperity is not just a database platform. You're a strategic partner. We're saying, hey, here are our goals. This is where we're trying to get to, but we need some help getting there. And so that was really the mind shift that I think changed. You guys are now more of a partner than just a platform.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely an extension of our marketing department. So, Books A Million has a wide range of customers, right? With reading interests varying all over the place, the way they shop is different. So it's really critical for us to be able to speak to those customers on a more one-to-one basis, and ROC and the Amperity team has really helped us do that. And then I'm most excited about what we learned about in the last section, that all of that automation is coming our way and those things will become more seamless.
Awesome. So kind of tying to that, I know your original session was about a month ago. You did your readout with Marcus last week. What's come of those discussions?
So a lot of it was both not a surprise and a surprise. And Marcus had kind of prefaced that for us before he read the results. He was like, you're going to be surprised and not surprised. I think it was validating that a lot of it wasn't a surprise because it was strategic goals that we are trying to get to. We are really focused on moving from spamming people with broadcast emails and text messages multiple times a day to having that more not just segmented, but personalized real-time journey. However, we all have probably gotten those messages saying, hey, sales are down right now. We need to immediately send this email in the next 5 minutes just so we can hit the target for the day. And so it's really hard changing that mind shift when you'll see immediate sales, but is it the long-term best practice solution? So like Lisa was saying, having an ROI number tied to what we're doing to say, hey, if we are to target our paid loyalty program members who are predicted to churn, is that actually worth it? And not just, oh, you're expected to get X number of dollars for it. It's X plus Y equals Z. So if you were to just get a 5% lift by targeting these people at this time, and here is how much more they are going to be worth over the long term, that is easily defendable. And that's how I'm saying, hey, here's how many more books they're going to be buying over the next couple of years. So I can really answer Terry, our CEO's question.
Yeah, I would say we had a couple quick activation strategies that we were able to implement right out of ROC. So really talking to our spend cohorts in a different way that makes a lot more sense to move them through that journey. So we only have about 40% of our total customer base, our loyalty base in Amperity right now. We're looking to collect the rest. That kind of came out of the ROC process that we're missing that piece. So loyalty is super important to us. So understanding that churn of a membership membership after that first year and why they're dropping off. We have some predictive triggers that we quickly learned about through the ROC process. But I would say the one thing that has been most exciting for me is Victoria's been training our teams across different departments on how to leverage Amperity. So our merchandising teams can go in and pull insights about things that are selling well, and then the extension of our marketing team, and even down to operations. So I think that education piece was strong from the ROC process.
Awesome. So is there one thing, that we did not cover about the experience, anything you want to leave everyone with before we open for Q&A?
Even if it's presented to you during holiday, don't forget about it. I just think about, granted, you're not going to do it in November, December, and then December 26th comes around, everyone resets, and you get ready for the new year. But I can't help thinking, if we had started this process earlier, how many of our paid loyalty members would we have reactivated by now? How many of our customers would we have not lost because we targeted them based off of the churn that came out of ROCD as a suggestion? So I think of those ROIs kind of as goals and benchmarks, how much closer and how much progress would we have made towards those if we had started this sooner? Granted, asking people to fill out a 24-question survey, trying to get all of your executives and everyone together in a room for 2 hours isn't a small ask when you look at everyone's calendars. That happens for a reason, but it is so worth it. And Marcus, seriously, the ROI that came out of this, I am forever indebted to you for that. It is very clear and very defendable. So that is the biggest thing that came out of this.
Awesome.
Yeah, I have to take fault there because it was presented to me right before holiday, and I said, absolutely not. Our heads are down, focused on sales. So if I were to give anyone advice kind of going into this, it would be definitely educate the participants ahead of time, not just with the survey, but make sure they understand that there will be a tangible output, a roadmap, a way to get from A to Z. I think that part was missing initially for us, and I am kind of kicking myself that we didn't do it a little more quickly, but that would just be some advice I would give.
Awesome. Well, I want to say thank you. Thank you for going through the process. Thank you for your business. We do have time for Q&A. I think if you want to run a couple of mics just for a little bit. Not all at once.
Sorry.
Oh, thank you. Hey, this is Abbas Kashyap, Martech Macy's. I guess my question is, so I know just like everyone, we also were approached to go through this ROCD assessment. What is that? Can you speak a little bit more about the process? Is it more computer-based? Is it more Marcus sitting and coming up with the recommendations? And then what's the total duration of that process?
Duration, what do you think total?
Oh gosh, I'd say, taking the scheduling aspect out, call it the discovery meeting. We can usually the next week give you kind of that. We do an internal pre-read with you or with our champions to make sure that we're aligning, because ultimately this should be a tool for you to use across the business, right? So we'll do that internal pre-read with you, usually the week after, sometimes a little bit longer after because of vacations and whatnot. And then from there we can do that executive readout following up. And then what you're going to see is this is going to be less of a point in time exercise, and in the future this is going to be part of how we kind of track and guide against things, and even starting to bring some of these recommendations up into the platform. So it'll be almost an always on thing, but lots of words to say about 2 or 3 weeks.
Yep. And then to the point, it's not all AI. There's a component, obviously, to come and talk to you specifically about your goals, what you want to go achieve. The outputs do come from a back-end system where we join all those metrics, all the feedback from the survey, plus the use case library. But a lot of the benefit is actually sit in partnership with you to understand and prioritize. So a mix of both, to be a bit more vague.
Yeah, I think that face-to-face interaction is most valuable for the process, for sure.
And do you remember Kick cereal, kid tested, mother approved? That's kind of the recommendations. They're AI tested, human approved. Right? We use the AI to help us surface those things because we can't parse 17 different inputs like tool telemetry and previous call transcripts and all that. And it can surface those things for us that let us either validate what we heard in the meeting and assumed would be a recommendation, or find something that we hadn't even thought of in the first place. And it's been a real accelerant enabler for us.
Thank you.
Maybe a follow-on question. I think we all stress up evenly the CRM gap. As we look at, trying to battle sort of that, commercial plans, trying to hit certain numbers, right? At times, and you just want to hit that lever for like just setting up an extra batch of blast. Do you guys anticipate kind of the incentivization structure or some kind of commercial planning changes based on looking at things like lifetime value? Maybe it's not totally lifetime value, still have like net demand or however you guys measure it. But do you see sort of the organizational changes evolving so that it supports kind of making these longer term decisions?
I can actually take this because, so in addition to doing ROCD, we saw earlier in one of the sessions the recommendations tab. And so you saw all of the cohorts, the champions and things like that. So we actually had gone through the customer value migration process in conjunction with the ROCD process. And so some of the things that we had learned from CVM, Sarah, thank you for all of your help with that. You were great. Some of the things that came out of CVM were very insightful in that regard, especially in regards to our loyalty program. It was like, ooh, this group of customers would more likely be incentivized. Don't pull back on discounts for them, but some of these other customers, you might be able to. And it's also like, you have all this great information, but sometimes it's like, okay, how do we incorporate this into what we're already doing? Because a customer journey is really hard to map out and know all of your touch points. So I wouldn't say that the insights changed everything. I think it helped us kind of find those micro areas of where we should be implementing our changes and where our strategy and thought process probably should be changing a little bit without overhauling the entire thing.
Curious on the count and the level. I'm thinking, you can imagine the therapy session spinning off the planet. So when you had your executives there, it sounded like it's important. So how many people and at what level do you have people in the organization?
I've seen, I think maybe our smallest session was maybe 4 or 5 folks, and then might have been where we had 10 or 12 in the room for that one. I think we maybe had even larger. And as far as level in the organization, I'm a firm believer that one, if the output of this is meant to be used with Terry, the CEO, right? Maybe we don't have the CEO in the room. But I'm a big believer in having everybody put hands on the keyboard to ideally the person who decided to start the relationship with Amperity campaign. Because, great example, one of the discoveries from that session was from a hands on the keyboard user that's not a hands on the keyboard Amperity user, right? She leads a team that works with the creative, works with the campaigns, and we got to hear directly from her, right? Hey, we see potential in the platform, but we don't use it. We don't have it. So how do we get to that? So there's a lot of value in having a lot of different layers there. Thanks.
Cool. Well, again, thank you all. I do want to leave you